This video provides a demonstration of the procedure to compact samples for AMPT cyclic fatigue testing. This procedure follows AASHTO T312 and AASHTO R83. The same gyratory samples are used to produce 100 mm diameter and 38 mm diameter test specimens. The following safety precautions are recommended for compacting loose asphalt mixture: safety glasses, heat-resistant gloves, lab coat. The following equipment and supplies are necessary for compacting samples: loose asphalt mixture, either a lab mixed sample or plant-produced mixture, gyratory molds, superpave material transfer device or scoops if a transfer device is not available, spatulas, metal spoons, metal pans, thermometer or thermocouple, paper discs, wax pencil or a suitable marking instrument, balance with 10 kilogram capacity readable to 0.1 grams, one or more ovens depending on the size of the ovens and the number of samples to be compacted. Superpave gyratory compactor capable of compacting 180 mm tall samples. Prior to starting the compaction process, determine how many samples will be compacted and whether the pans, instruments, and utensils in the laboratory will permit each sample to be heated in a single pan or if multiple pans will be necessary. The pans should be sized so that when it is fully loaded that the mixture is between 1 and 2 inches deep. Also plan on the number of samples that will be compacted and note the target mass for each pan that will be used for compaction. This value can be determined through an air void compaction study as outlined in AASHTO R83 Appendix X1 or may be given. The total number of samples compacted at one time may be limited by the size of the oven being used. Consult the operating manual for the oven that will be used to ensure that it is not overfilled and that the airflow and temperature will remain as consistent as possible. Preheat the oven to the temperature that will be used for compaction and place the compaction equipment into the oven. If a single oven is not large enough to hold all the asphalt samples and the compaction equipment, then preheat additional ovens for the asphalt mixtures. While the oven is preheating, remove the loose mixture sample from the sample containers and place into pans. Once it is preheated, place the pans of loose mixture for the first sample into the oven along with the spatula and spoon. Note the time that the mixture is first placed into the oven. Approximately 10 minutes later, place the loose mixture for the second sample into the oven. Continue placing the remaining loose mixture samples into the oven in 10-minute intervals. After the first sample has been in the oven for 60 minutes, it should be loose enough to fully separate. Remove the pan or pans from the oven and separate the mixture using the spatula and spoon. Place a clean pan on the balance and pour the loose mixture into the pan. Remove excess loose mixture to achieve the target compaction mass noted earlier. Place the mixture back into the oven and insert a thermocouple or thermometer into the sample. Repeat the process for the number of samples to be compacted. Set up the gyratory compactor to compact samples to a height of 180 mm using a rate of 30 gyrations per minute, an internal angle of 1.16 degrees, and a compaction pressure of 600 kPa. Check the temperature of the mixture regularly to determine when the compaction temperature has been reached. This time is typically around 30 minutes to 1 hour. Once the appropriate temperature is reached, remove a compaction mold, the transfer device or scoops, and spatula from the oven. Insert a paper disc in the bottom of the mold. Load the gyratory mold with approximately half of the material that will be used for the sample. If using the transfer device, pour the mixture from the pan into the device and stir before transferring. When pouring the mixture into the mold, be sure to pour into the center and avoid pouring against the mold wall. This can lead to non-uniform density. If using a scoop, be sure to take randomly from the pan and pour randomly into the mold to avoid segregation and non-uniform density. When the mold is approximately half full, use the spatula to scrape the sidewalls. The spatula should be inserted 8 to 10 times around the circumference as shown. Next, insert the spatula through the center of the mix 10 to 12 times as shown here. Note that this process is a deviation from the AASHTO R83 procedure, but is necessary because compactor molds are not tall enough to accommodate the uncompacted mixture when producing 180 millimeter tall compacted samples. For inserting the spatula into the center of the mix, two patterns that have been successfully used are shown here. Choose a pattern that can be executed consistently. Once the mold is filled, use the spatula to scrape the sidewalls and repeat the center spatula insertion pattern. When inserting the spatula, try to go as far as possible into the mixture without damaging aggregates. Then carefully level the top layer, taking care not to apply any unnecessary compactive effort. Place a paper disc on top of the sample, followed by a metal top plate if required for the compactor. Finally, initialize and start the gyratory compactor and let it run until the target height is reached. Extrude the sample from the gyratory compactor and allow it to cool. Most samples require 5 to 10 minutes before they can be moved to a cooling rack. Mark the sample with its unique identifier and mark the top end of the sample. Return the superpave material transfer device to the oven and any molds and utensils that will be reused for a minimum of 5 minutes. Before reusing, be sure to wipe the inside of the mold and the utensils clean of any visible particles or agglomerations. Repeat the process for all remaining samples.